Hey Grant, hope you're doing well this Monday. Thanks for having me over to the house and being so hospitable. Spent a lot of time looking at this. I'm officially about 6 months older than I was before I started, trying to figure this one out. I just cannot believe that over these years we have not had anyone on the river try to sell. So it's just really interesting that, or in the past 2 years, I went back 2 years. After that, it's just kind of not helpful at all in terms of appraisals. So I went through, this is your house. You got it at 2,300 square feet, 2,400 square feet actually. And then what I started doing is going through past sales, kind of seeing what things have sold for in the neighborhood. Again, I went back a little further than I normally would. And as I hover over these, and I'll tell you what, I'll put it in a better form real quick. Okay, so this is your CMA, comparative market analysis on this. But the houses right around your size have sold for 108 a square foot, 105, whatnot. Now we do have this one at 120 a square foot, which is my mentee. She sold that when she was still underneath me. And that's a killer thing. Got this other one for 110 a square foot. But for the most part, they hover in the 80s or 90s, except for these two high ones, and they're on the river, and that's why they've been able to get more. One of them is you, though. Okay, so that's not as helpful, but you see 108 would be the bottom because we've gone up from there. So we'll just walk away from the neighborhood view because at that point it's just not helpful anymore. And so now what we did is I did a specialized search where I pull all riverfront properties. I even took out river view properties because there was a disparity between the two. And just cutting through these real quickly, I'm going to hover over the sales price and it'll come out to price per square foot. You got 93, 122, 88. This one is actually I sold this one. This is my client's house. That needs to be refigured. He got the lot next door for that price as well. And the house is in a floodplain, even built below the floodplain, as where the next Miami houses are built above the floodplain. So that one's not a solid one. I would say if you backed out the lot, it would already be up to nearly 100 a square foot. 88 again, Two Rivers Court in a floodplain. Then here's your new Miami houses, and this is I talked to you about a little bit on the phone. But this is what's being built by Sean Hinton, and he's building amazing homes down there. Now these are out of the floodplain, but also these are like hurricane built homes. They're built very differently than even a house that's just elevated. And then here's another one that I see is pretty comparable to your house. The problem is A, it's just older, and B is that it's a lot bigger and has acres to it, so it doesn't help us too much. And then we got this one right here, 3,200 square feet, selling for 140. And let's look at the photos of that one real quick. Okay. Pretty familiar with this part of Pennington Bend, probably built out of the floodplain, similar age to your house. Really sharp granite countertops, nice cabinets. I would say all in all, it's hard to tell for sure that this is a tick above yours in terms of finishes. Got some basement square footage counted in there as well at $140 a square foot. We don't worry about that basement square footage too much. Okay, so on the market analysis, I don't show you the math here, but I've just done it on the side here. I'm going to go through things real quick. We don't have a perfect comp, so these objective factors come into play. I'm not an appraiser. Now, I think in most ways we do a better job than the appraiser because we're better at determining what people are willing to pay for things. But at the end of the day, the appraiser is protecting the bank and not you. You're gonna have appraisal problems on this house. There's just no way around it, unless we just get an appraiser who's just buyer friendly. We're gonna go for the best loan to value buyer we can get because they usually don't scrutinize those appraisals as much. But of course we have square footage. You mess in real estate, past sales, condition of the property, updates completed, basement square footage, and garage space. These are all things we can measure and appraisers make adjustments on. Here's the subjective factors we may not get adjustments for. Busy roads, pool, size of the yard, access to the backyard. You don't have a basement, don't worry about that one. And new home competition is not relevant in Donaldson. And then ease of showing and presentation. I can tell you, you're going to be really easy to be able to get out of there quickly when we need to show it. That really helps bring in a higher value because people make very spontaneous home decisions. It blows my mind. And so all of these things are things that we can say, yeah, it should bring more. Even the riverfront part. I may get an appraiser who says, I don't care if it's on the river. I need it to comp out. So if they don't have a like house, he may not make an adjustment for even being on the river. It just depends on who we get and how helpful they are. So if we look at the closed comps, I actually went for the minimum square footage of 120 a square foot. So that where I got that from, even though your neighborhood generally sells about 88 a square foot, is we do have a 1,500 square foot house that sold for 120. Now, given that is not a comp, I wish it was. But that kind of helps me line the bottom. And then we had the other house down McGavick Pike, Pennington Bend, for that one was on Pennington Bend on that one for 120, and then the McGavick house for 140 a square foot. So I feel like if you're on the river, people are going to be willing to pay that 120 a square foot. People may be willing to pay even more. The problem is, will it appraise? And so we're not going to sell to the appraisal, but we need to, just set realistic expectations. So this may be the widest gap I've ever had in my probable sales price and marketing price. But what I want to do is try to sell for 140 a square foot, which would bring you to 334. So the problem with going for something like that is not dropping the price. If that has to be done, that'll be done. But in setting expectations with the client, I don't want to sell it quickly unless you want to sell it quickly. But I do need to set expectations that I don't have the numbers on the books to support anything above 120, and even that's a little precarious if we get the wrong appraisal. So I think that if we're bullish and we can bring an offer of 325, and we start at 334, we'll be better for it. But I don't want you to be disappointed if we get offers that say 290, because those would be right on target with the numbers that we originally had. So they're not going to hurt our feelings or anything, but of course we're going to hold out for more for a little while. And then if we get an offer for say 325, we may run into an appraisal problem, but we're going to scrutinize our buyers with how much loan to value ratio they have, how much the cash they can put down, so that hopefully they'll be able to throw their billfold on the table and make the deal happen even if the appraisal doesn't come out. So again, hope that helps. I would be real excited to sell this, and I get to sell some unusual properties in Donaldson with sunset views, and I had one on the Mill Creek a while back, and I think that I understand as well as anybody what plays into this, other than just price per square foot. I think most agents are going to come in and probably actually go below 120 a square foot because, like I said, those comps weren't exactly valid, and we don't know how people are going to respond to the river and the greenway being behind there, but I'm really bullish on it. And I know I'll bring a lot of marketing to it that'll drive the traffic, and people are going to think it's awesome. Just will they think it's awesome enough to pay for it? So let me know what you think. I'm ready to go forward, and let me know how I can help you with the Berry Hill deal. I'm actually meeting my landlord in my commercial property tomorrow just to facilitate a deal like I offered to do for you. So if you need that help, I'll be glad to do it. But I like the way you're playing it. Just keep them calm and see what you can work out first. And if you need me to write up some documents, just let me know. I'll talk to you soon.